Time has a way of collecting certain faces and keeping them. Among them is the face of a man born in a hill town in Tuscany in 1452, a boy named Leonardo, whose life would wind through the crowded streets, the quiet workshops, and the shaded cloisters of Renaissance Italy. Imagine a valley of olive trees and varnished terracotta roofs, the smell of dust after rain, the low music of cartwheels on stone. From that landscape came a curiosity that could not sit still, hands that wanted to know the weight of things, eyes that would not let an edge, a shadow, or the flicker of a human smile be forgotten. He carried questions like a seam between art and nature, and he learned early that to see properly, he would have to draw. He arrived in Florence as the city pulsed with a new appetite for seeing. Apprenticed in his adolescence to a goldsmith-turned-painter's workshop, he learned the trades of drawing, preparing pigments, and the discipline of observation. There he found the quiet mathematics of proportion, the way a face is a landscape of planes and light. Yet he did not stop at painting. His mind reached for anatomy, for the arcing wing of a bird and the pattern of water. He filled pages with drawings, bones, muscles, gears, tides, each line a small theft from nature, a translation of experience into something one could hold and turn. Those pages, bound into notebooks over decades, would become the laboratory of a solitary hand, careful, impatient, and endlessly experimental. The story of his working life moves like a tide. At first, he is a young artist in Florence, then a restless talent in Milan, hired by a court that wanted not only portraits but inventions. There he painted, planned, and problem-solved at the order of a duke who imagined power and spectacle as expressions of modernity. The Last Supper appears in that time, a fresco that upends composure with an economy of gesture and a drama of light that makes a room hold its breath. The painting is a study in human reaction, a slow-motion catalog of impulse rendered in pigment, lines of perspective drawing the eye to the center, like the quiet of a well-told story. Nearby, in the same city, Leonardo dissected bodies, learning the architecture of muscles and sinew, so that his figures could be anatomically truthful and emotionally precise. He kept measurements, drawings of the heart's chambers and valves, the spiral of the cochlea, pages that read like the work of a physician and a poet at once. He moved through cities with a restless appetite for work and for patronage. In Florence again, he returned to portraiture, the elusive smile of a woman painted in a small, compact panel that would later be called the Mona Lisa. He worked on it not as one completes its commission and moves on, but as one returns to an idea, refining and softening edges until the face seemed to breathe under the paint. The technique he used, layers of translucent glaze and the gentle blurring of contours, created atmospheres where form emerges from shadow. It is the method that came to be known by a single word, a smoky merging of tones that let expressions live in ambiguity. Few of his painted works survive intact. Many were experiments in method. Others were abandoned because his curiosity pulled him outward toward machines, maps, and the study of flowing water. Throughout his career, he kept a private archive of inventions and observations. The pages are dense with sketches, flying machines that emulate avian wings, a rotating screw that suggests ideas of vertical flight, devices for lifting and moving, designs for canals and fortifications. Some are fanciful, some practical. Many are ahead of the technologies of his day. He studied water as if it were a language, drawing currents and eddies with the same intensity he applied to the human body. He designed systems of locks and channels, advising rulers on how to control floods or move ships inland. In the margins of these mechanical dreams are studies of gears and levers, of the interplay between force and form. In everything he drew, the hand was trying to convert sight into rule, to make observation yield to use. Leonardo's method was not a single path, but a braided approach. Look, record, test. He did not accept received authorities when direct observation contradicted them. He dissected to understand, measured to verify, and used drawing as a way of thinking with the eyes and hands together. His notebooks read as experiments, hypotheses sketched and then tried, failures annotated as lessons. He wrote most of these pages in a backward hand, a mirror script that is itself a small mystery, practical, private, or perhaps simply habitual for a left hand unfamiliar with ink. The notebooks traveled with him, thin sheets of paper bound and rebound, folded, reordered. Many are now scattered across libraries as codices, each one an atlas of curiosity that covers anatomy, botany, cartography, optics, and engineering. They show a mind that refused to be confined by disciplines, that saw the same patterns repeating in a muscle, a river bend, or the wing of a bird. His life was not only the gentle patience of the studio. When his patrons asked for war machines, he obliged. He drew designs for armored carriages, multi-barreled weapons, and bridges conceived to be quickly erected for military campaigns. Yet even these martial plans bear the same careful eye. An engineer who understood the geometry of movement, the way stress runs through a beam, the way a wheel throws its load. He was a court artist, an engineer, a stage designer, and an innovator in hydraulics who moved earth and water in service of political ambitions. When the fortunes of his patrons shuffled and cities changed hands, he found himself again between commissions and between projects, a maker whose curiosity sometimes outpaced the appetite of those who paid him. In the middle years, his drawings deepen in tenderness. The folds of skin, the set of an eye socket, the way a mouth changes with thought. These details are rendered as though he were trying to decode the mechanics of soul. He drew the fetus curled within the womb, precise and fragile, and studied the heart's valves with a patience that would rival any physician's. He painted fewer finished works than his reputation might suggest. He left many canvases and panels partly complete, always reworking, always reconsidering. To Leonardo, a painting could be an experiment as much as a product. He treated pigment like a medium for inquiry, blending anatomy with atmospheric science, light with the psychology of expression. Later in life, his path bends toward reflection and teaching through notes rather than through commissions. He traveled to Rome, then to the Loire Valley at the invitation of a French king who admired both his mind and his seeming calm. There, in the quiet of a French court, he carried his notebooks like portable suns, and he continued to study. He died in 1519, closing a life that was less a tidy arc than a long, wandering survey. The works he left behind, paintings, sketches, machines that would exist only in ink and imagination for centuries, became seeds sown into the future. He lived at a hinge moment between medieval craft and modern investigation, and his notebooks served as a bridge, a repository of methods, a manifesto of seeing. To stand before his paintings today is to feel the distance of centuries shrink. A painted face meets the viewer and retains the intimacy of a single gaze. To leaf through his notebooks is to be inside a mind that thought visually, that used drawing to interrogate nature as if it were a sympathetic partner. His legacy is not a set of tidy discoveries, but a set of habits, habit of careful looking, of recording, of cross-disciplinary thinking. He teaches that observation is not passive, but active. To see is to ask questions and to follow them. He modeled a way of working where art and science are not opposed but complementary, where the detail of a muscle can illuminate the sweep of a composition and the pattern of the sky can suggest an engineering problem. There is a melancholy in what he left behind. So few finished canvases survive, and many of his inventions existed only on the parchment of possibility. Yet perhaps that is fitting. His life was an argument in favor of perpetual curiosity rather than final answers. The pages that survive continue to inspire not because they contain finished sentences, but because they show a process in motion. They invite us to look, to experiment, and to accept that understanding often arrives through a succession of small, patient errors and corrections. When the day narrows and the light softens across the old paintings, his works still hold a kind of promise of the hand meeting the world with an unceasing desire to know how it works and how it feels. That is his quiet lesson, that a life can be shaped by the relentless pursuit of questions, and that the bridge between what is seen and what is understood is constructed line by line, sketch by sketch, experiment by experiment. In the lingering half-light of his sketches, one hears the slow, steady rhythm of inquiry, an invitation that outlives the man who first put pen to paper. Time keeps some faces because they teach us how to look. Leonardo remains one of them, a reminder that curiosity widens the world, and that seeing well is the first act of making something new.